Hallo. Hallo. Microfoon doet het, heel goed. Mijn naam is Arthur van Hoff. Ik kom uit Nederland, maar ik ben al 25 jaar in Amerika. En als jullie het niet erg vinden, ga ik dus verder in het Engels. Want ik vind het eigenlijk heel moeilijk om over mijn werk te praten in het Nederlands. Zoals je kunt begrijpen. So, my name is Arthur van Hoff. I work for Jaunt. And just to be clear, jaunt means in English going on a short, pleasurable trip. Going on a jaunt. Or in science fiction, it can also mean teleportation. Or if you know, do you know about the Urban Dictionary? The Urban Dictionary, it means going for a walk while smoking a joint. So first, I want to know, do you guys know about virtual reality? Okay, so what is this? Anybody? Panorama Mesdag. Very good, very good. So this is the first Dutch immersive installation, 1881. It's in Den Haag. It's really pretty. You definitely got to go see it. Now in Hollywood, in the movies, virtual reality looks like this. This is a typical virtual reality helmet. You know, there's lots of movies about virtual reality. There's Lawnmower Man, there's The Matrix. This one is called, anybody? Brainstorm. Fantastic movie with Christopher Warren. You got to see it. But in reality, virtual reality machines or goggles or headsets look more like this. This is a, you know, 5 years ago, this was the state-of-the-art virtual reality headset. About $100,000, very expensive. And this would actually give you a pretty good experience. Although the quality was relatively low, it would definitely give you the sense of being somewhere else, which is what virtual reality tries to do. But being somewhere else or feeling like you're somewhere else is actually fairly natural to people. Like if you read a book, for example, the batterij op. If you read a book, you can also imagine that you're somewhere else. So your brain is already sort of wired to imagine places. And even if I show you very bad pictures or tell you a story, you can imagine those places, what they look like or what it's like to be there. Then Oculus came around, and they made the Oculus Rift. And who's tried it on? Lots of people? Oh, cool. Excellent. So the Oculus Rift is kind of the $200 version of the $100,000 device. It basically has a screen and an accelerometer. It's very easy to use. And Facebook bought this company for $2 billion. Unbelievable. Well, but it's going to be very, very successful because of gaming, because games are already designed for 3D. You know, although you see them on the 2D screen, the game itself is already designed in 3D. So this is going to be a great device for using for games. And then Google came around and they invented Google Cardboard. And this is the $2 version of the $200 version of the $100,000 version of the headset. And this is basically a piece of cardboard. You stick your phone in and you have a $5 or a $2 headset that actually works quite well. You know, you can use it with any Android phone, and there's even some iPhone apps that work with it as well. You definitely go try it. You can buy them on Marktplaats if you're interested. But this is kind of like a poke in the eye of Facebook. Like Google is saying, like, look, we can do this for $2, and you pay $2 billion for that headset. Anyway, I wanted to, you know, Mark Zuckerberg said that, you know, the founder of Facebook, that VR is kind of the next big platform. Just like tablet computing was the next big platform for Flipboard when they invented, you know, sort of how do you do a magazine on a tablet. You know, there's a new platform which is called virtual reality, and we got to sort of invent the language of virtual reality and the applications of virtual reality from scratch. So, what do we do at Jaunt? Well, at Jaunt, we're doing what we call cinematic VR, which is kind of movies in virtual reality. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take virtual reality beyond gaming, because gaming is definitely going to make virtual reality very popular. But not everybody is a gamer. There's lots of people who just want to be entertained. They want to watch a movie, they want to experience something. And that's what we're working on. So this is complicated because you have to have a camera, you have to record things, and you have to format them the right way, you have to deliver them, and you have to create a great experience. I'm going to explain how we do that. But first I want to talk about a few of the applications. You know, there's the customer demand, as the previous person was talking about. So for example, music. You know, if you want to go see Rihanna in concert, you can buy a ticket and you can sit at the front row, like $500, and you can sit in the front row. But we can actually put a camera on stage, and you can be on stage with Rihanna, and you can really feel like you're there. So that's a ticket you can't buy. Or you could be with Rihanna backstage, or you can be with Rihanna alone on a beach, or you can be in the studio when she's recording her next record. That's an experience you can't get a ticket for today. Or sports. Imagine going to a basketball game and you can sit courtside and see how tall the players are, and you can really experience the excitement of the game up close and personal. That's a $4,500 ticket today that we could sell you for $45. Film is an important category. You know, everybody went to see Gravity, and that was a fantastic experience, but it's, you know, not quite immersive. So with virtual reality, you can really be inside the movie and experience it as if you're there. That's going to be very interesting. But you have to reinvent a lot of things, like how do you tell a story in VR? How do you light the scene? Because the camera can look all the way around. You know, you can't have like half the set built. You have to build the set all the way around. So it's totally different. Advertising could be very different. Today, if you look at ads, people watch them, you know, what's the beginning of the ad, and then they stop. And for advertisers, that's a problem. So if you have an ad that is sort of immersive, then maybe you have to see it more than once in order to see all the components of it. You know, like looking one way, you might see one part of the story. Looking another way, you might see a different part of the story. That would be very interesting for advertising. Or for news. Today, if you watch the news, you see what the cameraman wants you to see. So you see the protesters or the police, but you don't get to choose. But with virtual reality, you can look wherever you want. You're the cameraman. You can look at the protesters, you can look at the demonstrators, you can look at the police, you can look at the bystanders, you can look at the helicopter flying overhead, and you can see for yourself who threw the first stone. So it's very unbiased, right? So you're not told where to look, you can choose where to look. And that gives you a totally different perspective. Or travel. Now, who doesn't want to go to the Taj Mahal? Well, a lot of people can't afford to go there, but you could go there in virtual reality. You could experience the Taj Mahal and look around inside and around it and really feel like you're there. Or you could see what the hotel is going to be like when you're going on your next trip. I mean, often in the magazines, the pictures are really pretty, but then when you get there, it's not quite the same thing, especially if you turn around and look what's behind the picture. But in virtual reality, you can turn around and you can see what is there. Or education, you know, you could be in the classroom, and in particular for sort of things like physics or chemistry, or when you want to do customer training or sensitivity training or military training, those kinds of situations, virtual reality could be very interesting because you really feel like you're in the classroom and you're part of the educational experience. Definitely a very interesting application. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the company. We're located in Palo Alto in California, which is in Silicon Valley. And we're about a year and a half old. We got financing from Redpoint, Highland Capital, and Google Ventures, and we raised about $34 million. So that's a lot of money. And the reason for that is that it's a very exciting space. A lot of people are very excited about virtual reality and what the possibilities are. In particular, the movie studios are very excited in Hollywood because movie sales are going down and DVD sales are plummeting, and they're looking for new ways of improving movies. Now, you know, think about movies at the beginning of the century. They were black and white, there was no sound, and then they added sound, and then they added color, and then they added resolution, and they made it digital, and then they added 3D, and they keep adding more and more immersive features to movies. And this is kind of the next big immersive feature that you can add. So this is kind of a logical next step for entertainment. So since we raised this money, we've been very busy recording different scenes and different projects with our cameras. And I want to go over a few of them with you. And then after the talk, in the other place over there, I'll be showing some demos. So for the people that are interested, you can come over and actually see some of this content. So we've done recordings like classical music. And if you look over there on the right, you can actually see a picture of our camera standing right up close. And when you later on experience the concert, it is like you're there. You're really right in front of the performers. This was at the Electric Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas. There's 200,000 people listening to guys playing records. We recorded Armin van Buuren and DJ Afrojack and a bunch of other famous DJs. And it's actually really interesting because we have shots from being in the audience and you can see them on stage, but we also have shots where you're like really right next to them and you can see how they're, organizing their records and how they're, hyping up the crowd. It's really fun to see. This is a horror movie that we shot with Greg Plotkin, the director of Paranormal Activity. And, I can tell you one thing, horror movies are scary, but horror movies in VR are really scary. And if you ask nicely, I will let you try it. We also did a World War II reenactment. So it turns out that in California where I live, there's a guy in Petaluma who has a property and he has a tank and he has jeeps and motorbikes from World War II and he's a collector. So we went to his property and we hired actors and the director and we shot a World War II movie there. And then on the day of the shoot, the tank broke down. And, well, we needed a tank for the story, so we had to find a new tank quickly. And apparently there is a 1-800 bring a tank quickly. And a new tank showed up. And the first time my son watched the movie, he says, "This makes no sense. It's a German tank with British soldiers inside." Anyway, it's really fun. This you can also see in our demo. We also did a monster movie, and one of the interesting things about monster movies is that they're sort of very old school. They use miniatures and people in suits and pyrotechnic effects, and we did this with New Deal Studios, and they're the guys that actually made all the sets for Star Wars, all the miniature sets for Star Wars, and so they built a whole small city for us, and they built monster suits. And then we put the camera really close to the ground. Everything looks really, really big, and the monster comes and it crushes the camera and stuff. It's really cool. You can come see that one too. So how do we do this? So in order to record a movie in virtual reality, you need a lot of very complicated stuff. First you need a camera. You need a calibrated panoptic camera, and I'll show you some pictures of what that looks like. You also need computational photography algorithms that takes all the data from all the various cameras inside, because there's multiple cameras there that are all looking in different directions. And that needs to then be combined to do a single experience that you can then show in virtual reality. But besides that, you also need audio. You need spatial audio, because the sound comes from different directions. So we also record with a spatial microphone that I'll show a picture of in a minute. To get the audio. And then we need to have post-production tools, because you want to do edits, you want to do color correction, you want to do cuts, and those need to be built because they don't exist. And then you have to deliver the experience, so you have to have apps for your phone and for the PC, for the Mac, for Gear VR, for Google Cardboard, and that's a lot of work too. So it's a lot of work, and but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. That's what I tell people. So this was our first prototype camera. As you can see, It's a GoPro on a Lego rig, and the thing would turn around slowly and take pictures. So this way we could prove to ourselves that with multiple pictures we could actually create one panoramic image that you could see in VR, and it would look like a 3D image. That worked really well, so we then built our second prototype. That was this one. And this is a 3D printed sphere with 32 lenses. This worked really well, but it was low resolution, and also it required a whole cabinet full of equipment. So it wasn't very practical. We really wanted the camera that we could take in an airplane and go take it places and go record on site. So we built this camera here. This is a camera that has 14 GoPros inside. And it records in all directions. So it records all the way around, and then there's two cameras pointing up so you can see the ceiling. And then this here at the foreground is our microphone. It's called a Tetrahedral Microphone, and it records from all directions at the same time. It records a sound field. And then later, when you wear headphones, we take the sound field, and as you turn your head, we actually rotate the sound field around and create an experience that makes the sound come from the right direction. Because otherwise, you know, it would just be stereo and the world would be moving with you. What we want is that the world stays still while you move your head. We also build a lot of tools to take the data from the camera and process it into a virtual reality experience that we then deliver to the Oculus Rift, the Gear VR, and to the the Google Cardboard. So what does that look like? Well, at the top over there you see a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, and these are the original pictures taken with our camera. So as you can see, there's differences in brightness, differences in color, differences in alignment, and you have to correct for those in order for you to create one beautiful panorama like you see at the bottom here. Now that's hard, but it's actually a little bit harder than that, because we don't want it to be a single picture. We actually want two pictures, one for your left eye and one for your right eye, so that you can see depth. So we actually try to compute what your left eye would see and what your right eye would see, and we combine that in a stereoscopic panoramic image. We also have post-production tools. I won't go into details here. And we do spatial 3D audio with this microphone. And we use Dolby Atmos editing tools for that. Dolby Atmos is what Dolby used for theater productions. And then we have a viewer on lots of different platforms. Like you can see, there's lots of different headsets you can buy today. There's the Oculus, this is the Sony Morpheus, which is not yet released. This is the Gear VR, which is actually one of the best ones. But you can also view it on an iPad if you want, where you just hold it up and you just look around. And it actually works quite well as well. And then there's Google Cardboard, which is really nice and cheap. So in conclusion, you know, we think VR is the next big platform. You know, there's going to be a revolution in, you know, apps and the design of apps and the design of experiences. And you know, the headsets that are available are rapidly evolving. So the quality is improving. There's new ones coming out all the time. You know, people are building, you know, interesting new headsets that use your phone in interesting ways, or that use the camera in your phone, or that have additional sensors in it. It's actually quite interesting what's happening. You know, virtual reality is a hard problem, but it's, you know, it's mostly very hard because it's changing so quickly. You know, every month there is a new device, or there's a new technology that you need to support. So you need to move very quickly, and that's why we're located in the Silicon Valley, because we're right in the middle of where that's happening. So we think cinematic VR in particular is a great opportunity, and it will change a lot of industries. You know, movie industry, music industry. You know, there's a lot of potential here. And we have a great team, and we're in a great location, and we believe we can be a category leader in this space. So I want to invite you guys to come over to the demo area back there and take a quick peek at some of our content, and you can judge for yourself whether you're going to be watching movies in virtual reality in the future.
We will. Arthur van Hoff, give him an applaus. Great. Arthur. But before we do, we will ask you some questions. Are there questions from the audience? Yeah. Hey, Tessa.
Yeah, I've seen your clips that you showed just now. When do you think that we can watch a full movie already?
So full movie. So I don't think a full movie, like a 2-hour movie, is the right thing at the moment, because nobody's going to sit in the living room, you know, wearing the headset for 2 hours at a time. So we're working on short form content. That's why music is so good, because songs are like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and those are the right lengths. So even the World War II movie that we're doing, for example, we'll release that in short episodes. So it'll be like 5 minutes at a time rather than like a half hour all at once.
So Arthur, did you do some research how your brains can react to that? Because it's a lot of impressions.
Yes.
So what can you say about that?
Well, you know, for different people, different things. I mean, we have to not only learn how to make movies, but we also have to relearn how to watch movies. Mm-hmm. Because very often, as you'll see in our demo, you know, you're looking at one thing and then there might be something else happening behind you. So you might actually have to watch the movie twice to see all of it. And actually that's what kind of makes it interesting, because, you know, someone can say, oh, did you see that? And then you have to go, oh my God, I have to see it again, you know. So it actually makes the content more engaging in some ways. So I think it's sort of an interesting thing to explore.
Okay, question?
Thank you for sharing this promising technology. But do you think already of a next big challenge? Because in all your examples, the point of view of the camera is a static one. And I think for a real experience, you need to walk into your cinema, your cinematic VR as well. And do you already dream of that possibility?
We've definitely thought about that. I mean, you know, on the one hand, you can actually move the camera. Right? You can actually put the camera on a car, for example, and move it around. The problem with moving the camera is that people get motion sick. And that's because your head is not moving, but the image is moving very rapidly, and it can be very confusing. So we try to avoid that, because we don't want to make people sick, of course. So that's one thing. And also, we don't want to make it a game. Right? So what we want is something where you sit down, you relax, and there's an experience being delivered. And I'll give you an example. I went to Japan 6 months ago with my son, and we went to film the snow monkeys. I don't know if you've heard of those, but there's these hot pools with these monkeys in them. They're in the snow, and they're all going in these hot pools because it's so cold, and it's really cute to see. So we put the camera up, and we're recording these monkeys. And last summer, I was here in Holland visiting my parents, and I showed this to my mom. And I give her the cool cardboard, and she puts it on, and there's all these monkeys, and she's looking around. And then she looks at my son, and he goes like, oh, Emil got so tall. And the thing is that, you know, I immediately realized that, you know, it is so natural for her to look around and see someone, and then immediately recognize that they've grown, that it's just so natural. It's such a simple thing to do. She didn't have to learn any controls. She didn't have to learn how to use it. It's just you look around. That's the only thing you need to know.
Okay, question?
Yes, when you're filming this way, where do you leave the film crew?
Very good question. Well, guess. Any suggestions? I have a few.
For a big prize, what is the...
Under, that's a very good one. So that's that. We have situations where we put the cameraman under the tripod. That's possible. There's other solutions. Who has another suggestion?
You have the solution.
The actors could be the crew.
Exactly. Dress them up as a soldier. Yes. So if you in the World War II movie, the cameraman is actually dressed up as a British soldier. Another really good one is to find a tree and hide behind it.
So Chris, you had also a question.
Yes, there are many people that actually want to live on Mars, and I am very interested in Mars, but I would not go there because it's too dangerous. And I was thinking, couldn't you take contact with NASA, with all their rovers, that actually you make a Mars movie and I can be on Mars safely at home, and if I like to have the Mars atmosphere, sit in my refrigerator, but still enjoy Mars.
So there is already stereoscopic content from the Mars rovers. So you could, in principle, already do that. So I think, but that's a really good example of an experience that is something not everybody will be able to experience anyway. I mean, like going to the top of Mount Everest, or going up in space, or going to Mars. So in those kinds of situations, it's very important that we record it and produce it in virtual reality, so that future generations can experience it. Like the royal wedding, when Maxima and Willem-Alexander got married. Wouldn't it be great if we'd recorded that in virtual reality, so that our children's children will be able to see that and
yes,
experience
Arthur, we had
that?
Prinsjesdag, so this year. We had Prinsjesdag. This year we had it also with...
I saw, yeah.
Hi, this is all about seeing and hearing. What about the other instincts, smell, taste?
And feel.
And feelings. What is your dream about that?
Well, I mean, that's all a matter of time, right? I mean, I'm not too crazy about smell-o-vision, but it's possible.
It's time. Okay, we have to close. Last question? Okay.
Is there a virtual reality app store already? I mean, where do I go to find content for my virtual reality?
So Oculus has a thing called Oculus Share, where you can download apps. And then the Google Cardboard apps are all on the Google App Store. And then there will be, for the Gear VR, which is the Samsung one, there's another app store. So there's lots of places to find stuff, but it's still pretty hard at the moment. But that is one of the things that needs to change over time, so that more people can experience this.
Okay, applaus Arthur van Hoff van Jaunt VR.